As a small business owner, when you hire a new employee, it can be incredibly exciting. The opportunity to get more stuff done, to branch into areas you hadn't had time to look at, to just offload some of that annoying admin work that you've been holding on to, or free up your key members of staff to be able to focus on higher generating tasks. All these reasons, it makes it incredibly exciting and potentially rewarding to bring in somebody new. But what happens when it doesn't go to plan? When within a few days or weeks, this person just isn't performing at the level you need them to, they aren't getting the job done. How do you deal with that? What are the lessons I've learned from making mistakes in this? And actually, I'm going to give you some insights from a recent, actually just literally finished a coaching call with one of my clients about who's going through a similar situation at the moment. And I'm going to share the advice that I gave them and what came out of that meeting and discussions with the other clients in the group.
So the question is this: how do entrepreneurs like us, who don't have an endless supply of cash, how do we leverage the best apps, virtual assistants, automation tools and systems to scale our businesses, increase our profits, and have more time to do what we love to do each day? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name's Dr. Steve Day, and this is Systemize Your Success.
So when we take on somebody new, there's this period, we call it the probationary period, but it's this honeymoon period, if you like, when you are really feeling each other out. Like, they're looking to you to say, like, is this somewhere I want to work? Do I actually want to work with this boss? Do I get the company ethic and culture? Is this somewhere I want to hang out and actually spend a lot of my time? And you're doing something similar. You're checking them out. Can they actually do the job? Do they fit into the team? Do they have the right skills and attitude and the right values? And all those things you can try to drag out throughout your recruitment process. And the more systemized and more detailed your recruitment process is, then the better chance you have of actually finding good people that are a good match with a first time round. However, no matter how good it is, people do slip through the net. They do tick all the boxes on paper and in interviews, but when it comes down to it, when they're at the coalface doing the work, it just isn't working. You're not getting the results that you feel you need, and they're not performing at the level you believe they should be at, depending on obviously taking into account, they've only just started, but something doesn't feel right. And it could just actually be an attitude thing. It could be that you just don't get each other. It doesn't matter what it is. When those feelings start creeping in these early days and weeks of somebody starting new with you, they can be hard to shift. And if they take hold and you don't do anything about it, it can be devastating, I think, to the existing team's morale, to your energy levels, and to the productivity and efficiency of the business at a whole. So actually acknowledging there is a problem, and actually taking steps to initially try to rectify that problem. But if that doesn't come to fruition, then actually taking the right meaningful action to move forward from this and actually end that employment, and then find somebody better and more suited to the role who does tick all the boxes properly. That's what you need to do. And today I want to discuss that in a little bit more detail. So I'll give the example actually from today. So in this example, my client has recently had a virtual assistant from abroad, and they've been working together for about 2 weeks, only on about 10 hours a week. And this person's been going through a particular task and struggling with the attention to detail, making careless mistakes in my client's eyes, and repeatedly doing so. So despite feedback on a number of occasions, the work that keeps coming back just has obvious mistakes, things that really he feels should have been corrected or picked up, especially after receiving the detailed feedback that he'd been given. And this has led to him coming and really voicing his concerns and his frustrations. Like, what should I do now? Like, at what point is enough? Do I now, she's still in probationary period, so there's no sort of contractual or legal or any other obligation to keep this person on. But his sort of counter to that was, she was great in the recruitment process. She was the top candidate by far. I loved her in the interview. Like, she answered all the questions and did the test tasks and all the rest of it perfectly. So I'm just so surprised this person isn't performing. And I don't know if I'm making a rash judgment, or, should I accept this now? Should I expect this level of performance, or, should I actually do something about it? And we discussed about how he'd been managing her. So he had been doing one-to-ones with her, and he'd been giving feedback and check-ins with her. So ticks all the boxes of the things that he should be doing as a manager. We discussed, about improving some of those things slightly, but generally speaking, he'd been doing all the right things. And so I don't feel it was really a management issue. And in this case, it probably is a person issue. And it may be that this person is the wrong person for the role. In his company, he doesn't have a bunch of people. It's just his only member of staff or only contractor working for him. So it's not like he can move her into a different department and see if she shines in that one instead. And he hasn't got a track record with this person to know that actually normally she's performing well, but recently it's gone downhill. And that's a different scenario altogether. What we're talking about here is when someone brand new, despite however good they look on paper, when they come and do the job, they just aren't performing. And despite getting feedback, despite being managed in an effective way, they aren't improving. And the sort of the harsh or the simple version of this is they sound like they're not the right person for the job. And it may be that they're just doing something they feel totally out of their comfort zone. It's not like within their superpower zone. They don't enjoy, whatever the reason is. But if that's the only thing you've got for them, then unfortunately it makes the decision, I feel, more obvious, but not easier. Because letting anybody go is not easy. And so it's not just about, I feel, letting the person go and then them being, unemployed again. That is obviously not something I enjoy doing, and I don't think I ever will enjoy doing it by far. I mean, it's more for me as well that I feel like a failure when this happens to me. I feel like I failed in my recruitment process. I failed to onboard them and get them enthusiastic enough to really put their heart into it. I failed as a manager on supporting them and coaching them or training them. I always feel like this is such a reflection of me that I almost don't want to let them go because I don't want to admit that I've failed. And regardless of if that's true or not, and I think a lot of that actually is true, that we got to look at ourselves in many cases first as leaders to say that actually we could have improved our recruitment process. We could have had a better onboarding process. We could have managed them better and given them more training or whatever it is. I think those things are all true, and it is good to reflect on them. But I also feel that in my personal examples in the past, I think that's got in the way of me making the decision. By not wanting to admit the failure to myself, I've hung on too long. And that's a sticky plaster to the problem, because the problem doesn't go away just because you ignore to take action on it. And in fact, by not taking action on it, there are some real significant knock-on effects to both you, but other employees in the company, and to your potentially to the company's reputation. Because if you have somebody in your company who is underperforming in terms of getting work done and getting it out there at a level or a quality that you're happy with, you are either forced then to step in and correct that work and make it right, which takes up your valuable time. Not ideal, because you hired this person to take away stuff from you, not to add more stuff to you. And so that's not ideal. Or you spend so much time and energy on working with them for them to do it, you feel, it would have just been easier and quicker and simpler just to do it myself, which then leads to you getting demotivated and burning out because you're now forced back into doing stuff that you feel frustrated by, and you just think, why can't this person just get on and do it? And if you've got a team, it can drag them in as well. And I have an example where we held on to somebody a little bit too long, and it was more of a convenience thing. They weren't bad, but they weren't good. And we're a tiny team. We're a micro business. So if one member of staff isn't playing at an A game, it really affects us as a whole team. Like at the moment, we've got, at the time of recording this, that's a quarter of our team. So one person, a quarter of our team. So 25% of our workforce isn't performing at a level that's acceptable and independent and producing the results we want, then that's huge. And it means other people are picking up the slack. They're either stepping in, we're not able to hand over enough work to that person because they're taking too long over stuff, or other people are correcting their work or having to oversee them and manage them and handhold them through, or they're answering a ton of questions where honestly the person should just be able to get on and do stuff. There's loads of negative knock-on effects which may be hidden to you as a business owner if you've got other staff, or they may be very transparent and very visible. Either way, they're still there, and they bring down the overall effectiveness, productivity, efficiency of the company, of the team, simply by having one person that isn't quite up to speed, or isn't, whatever word you want to use. They're playing a B game where everyone else is playing an A game. And it may not be that it doesn't mean they're terrible sometimes. It doesn't mean they're, doing anything bad or destructive or malicious. It's just that they're not either in the right seat, they don't have the heart for that particular role, or they're distracted. They don't have so much status connected to their work. So what I mean by that is as employers, like ideally, I feel we want people who really value or get value from feeling like they're performing well at work. We want people who take pride in their work, who get a status back from the position they hold, from the money they earn, from the recognition they get for their extra hard work and the results they produce for the company they work for. We want that to actually be a part of who that person is and how they see themselves in the world, because that makes into a brilliant, motivated employee. Don't want that to be all it is for them. I still want my employees to have huge amounts of value and connection to everything else in life. But if they don't have that at all, if work is just a means to an end to get money to go out and party or just to hang out with friends and family or whatever, and their entire status in their life is actually really focused on other things outside of work, then it doesn't really bear well to being a good employer. So we're trying to find those good people like that. And so when we don't find those people, when someone gets through our recruitment process that doesn't have that sort of attitude, they can then, for all the reasons I've just said, end up bring down the standard overall, and then lead to, as I said, reduced energy level in the team, and you in stress, you getting like stressed out or having anxiety about a meeting, like, oh, how's this going to go? Oh no, are they going to have done that work properly? Am I going to spend time like correcting them? Like, I always feel bad when I have someone like that, and I end up sort of getting into sort of giving them feedback in a team meeting or whatever, or just getting frustrated. I find it really hard to like hide my frustration, and I can see it on my face on Zoom, and I'm terrible at hiding my emotions. What they say, I wear my emotions on a sleeve, or I think that might be the expression, but my face, like, you can see what I'm thinking when you look at me. And so, I can see their reaction to this, and it's a bad recipe, because they react to me and my expressions, and that then leads them to perform even worse because they get nervous, and it's terrible. So I really try and find people that I just gel with and connect with. It doesn't mean they have to be the same as me. I've got 2 employees at the moment that, like, they are polar opposites of each other. Like, one is the super amazing attention to detail, diligent, efficient, everything you want in a sort of an admin type. She's more than an admin type, so I don't want to undervalue her work, but that's sort of like just getting complete to finisher. That's the word I was looking for, a complete to finisher type role. Like, she's absolutely awesome at that, and like when it's done with her, it is done. And I've got someone else who's like just brilliant at just getting on with stuff, just figuring stuff out. You throw something at her and she'll, I'll sort it out. But she may need a little bit more coaching on the getting it finished. What we do is we combine those people together, and now we've got an absolutely brilliant team, because we've got somebody who's great at starting projects, of getting them going, of fixing problems, of just having the confidence just to do it, and someone else that can come and just double check things to make sure they're 100% right. And so I digress. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. So what I was saying was, I don't need people to be like me for me to like them. I just need them to have an attitude that I can connect with. And in the micro business, I think that's really important. As a business owner, you are going to spend time working with your team. And even if you're at one level above, if you've got less than 10 employees, it's unlikely you're never going to have interactions with people. And so even if like I have in the past, I've tried to separate myself from the person I've struggled to work with, thinking that would take the problem away, and putting someone in the management between them. But ultimately, because we're a tiny business, I end up still having to work with that person at some level. And I also, when you've got an ill feeling about somebody or you just don't gel, then it just affects the way you think about them and maybe the way you give feedback and everything. So to cut a long story short and to bring this to a close, my big take home from this is about making a decision based on the evidence you have in front of you. And if you have somebody, for example, who isn't performing well, then give them an ultimatum by saying, look, I've given you feedback. Now we're going to do a performance coaching for the next week. We're going to look at your work in this specific way. So for example, attention to detail, we're going to actually see how many silly mistakes, careless mistakes are made. And if out of all the work you do, we have more than 5 mistakes in the next week, then we'll then have to review, if there's potential for you to work in the company going forward. If, however, you can show that you can step up and do this, then that's absolutely brilliant, because we'd love to keep you. Like, how do you word that? You have to think about it. But the point is, you're then giving them a very clear picture. And some people might just quit on the job there and then, and that's not a bad thing, because if they ain't willing to step up, it's either because they're not interested or they don't feel they can. And either way, you don't need those people. So that's a good thing, because then you don't have to let them go. It's their decision to leave, and therefore it makes actually, I think, it better for everybody. And so if we don't do that, then we just prolong the inevitable, because if you've already gone down this thought process, then you're probably going to end up at the same resolution at the end, or the same result at the end, which is you're going to let them go at some point. In all that time, they've been having a negative effect on you and your staff, your energy, the stress. You've also been putting more time into developing that person, to training them, or for them just to be there and just absorb, take wages, whatever it is. They're dragging resources away from somebody who could be absolutely brilliant in that role. So if you flip it around and think, okay, I'll take the short-term pain to get the long-term gain. And as they say, hire slow, fire fast, I think the expression is. So if you fire fast, then you've then got an opportunity to find somebody else who does shine in that role, who you do gel with. And then you can lovingly put your time and energy and training and commitment into that person. Because if they're an A player and they're fitting them into an A player team, now you've got a team of A players. No one has to carry anybody else. They can have their own strengths and their own weaknesses, like I explained before, but the combination of those should be greater than the whole, or the whole should be greater than the parts. That's what it is. So the sum of the parts should be whatever that expression is. Together they can do more than they can individually. That's what I'm trying to say. And if that's the combination, then it's great. You don't have everybody doesn't have to be good at everything, but you need the right combination of people, and for each person to have some superpower that you can lean on to know that if I need that doing that type of work, that's who I go to. That's what I feel in a micro business anyway. So they also, once you've had this new person, you can train them up, etc., etc. And it means that now all of that energy is going into someone who you actually believe is going to stay in the company, rather than keeping the other person because you don't want to make that tough decision or have that tough conversation. It just drags out, and you actually waste huge amounts of time and energy on somebody who is probably going to leave anyway. So, in summary, if you're in a position where you've hired somebody new, and in the early days, the first days or weeks, you really get a sense of feeling that they're not a good fit or they're just not up to the job, then don't hang around and just hope for the best that it's going to improve. If somebody is hungry for work, if somebody has abilities, if somebody is a good fit culturally and on a values base, it will show from the day one. It shouldn't be something you have to dig out and hope for the best with people. Yes, people may not show their best on day one. Yes, there will be areas that need to be improved and developed, but there should be something about that person that makes it compensate for anything that isn't perfect. And you can't expect anybody ever to be perfect for everything. That's not what I'm trying to say. But if you don't have something to balance any negatives up, so real positive to balance negatives, then it's all leaning one way, and inevitably, I think that's a failing. Destined to failure. And so, making that decision early, as I said before, will actually do everybody in the company, including the person you're actually letting go, a big favour, because they can go and find another job in a company which they do fit in better to. They do feel valued. They do shine because they're doing something they actually really enjoy and love doing, and that's going to be better for them in the long run, and obviously, as I said, better for you. That's it. Hope you found this useful and interesting. If you have, please do share this with your friends, colleagues, loved ones, whoever, to make sure that we spread the word about doing business better, be more efficient, be more systemized, and getting more done with everything we do. Please do leave us a quick review, send us your comments, let me know at steve@systemandoutsourcing.com about any future episodes you'd like me to record, and I'd be happy to oblige. Take care, have a fantastic day. Thank you very much. Bye.